It was a cold Thanksgiving morning in a small town in Massachusetts. The sky was gray, and the biting wind made the dry leaves dance through the streets. Houses were decorated with wreaths and Christmas lights, anticipating the festive season. The aroma of pumpkin pies and roasted turkey escaped through the windows, blending with the chilly air. The town seemed wrapped in an atmosphere of tranquility. But for Ethan, it was just another ordinary day, without any special meaning. Ethan was a skeptical, practical, and rational man. As an investigative journalist, he had spent most of his life uncovering lies and exposing inconvenient truths. To him, the world was a cold and logical place, where everything could be explained by facts and evidence. God, destiny, miracles, all of it, in his view, was a human invention to cope with the chaos of existence. He believed in nothing beyond what he could see, touch, or prove. That morning, Ethan drove to the miller's house, where he would meet his childhood friends for the traditional Thanksgiving dinner. Despite his reluctance to participate in family gatherings, he kept the habit of attending this annual reunion. Sarah, Michael, and Emily had been his friends since childhood, and although their lives had taken very different paths, they always found time to come together on this special day. The miller's house was warm and welcoming, with a crackling fireplace in the corner of the living room and a table set with traditional dishes. Sarah, a literature teacher, was hosting the dinner. Michael, now a pastor, led the prayer before the meal, thanking God for their friendship and health. Emily, a sensitive and dreamy artist, helped serve the dishes while talking about the signs and miracles she saw in the world around her. Ethan, as always, remained silent, observing everything with a faint, cynical smile. After dinner, Emily suggested they take a walk through the town square, which was decorated with Christmas lights and a large nativity scene. Reluctantly, Ethan agreed. He saw no point in admiring Christmas decorations, but decided to join his friends to avoid seeming rude. The square was bustling, with families and children admiring the lights and playing in the snow that had just begun to fall. Ethan, however, felt out of place, as if he were out of sync with the joy around him. While his friends marveled at the lights and the nativity scene, Ethan wandered off, drawn by something he saw on the other side of the square. Sitting on a bench was a man wrapped in an old coat and a worn scarf. He looked like a homeless man, but there was something about his presence that caught Ethan's attention. His eyes were deep and piercing, as if they carried centuries of wisdom. Ethan felt an inexplicable urge to approach him. As he got closer to the man, Ethan was overcome by a strange sensation, as if time around him had slowed down. The man watched him with an intense gaze, and Ethan felt as though he were being analyzed, as if all his secrets and doubts were being laid bare. Suddenly, the world around him began to change. The square disappeared, and Ethan found himself in a completely different place. He was now on a busy street, full of hurried people. No one seemed to notice his presence. In front of him, a woman sat on the sidewalk, holding a child in her arms. She cried silently as people passed by without even glancing at her. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He had never paid attention to scenes like this before, but now it seemed impossible to ignore. The woman's pain and despair were almost tangible. Before he could react, the scene changed again. Now, Ethan was in a hospital. In a bed, an elderly man held the hand of a young woman who was crying beside him. The man looked frail, but there was a serenity on his face, as if he were at peace with what was to come. Ethan felt a wave of emotions he couldn't explain. He had never thought about what happens after death, but now the question seemed unavoidable. The scene shifted once more. Ethan was now in an open field, surrounded by a golden light. In front of him, the man from the bench reappeared. But now he looked different. His presence was imposing, almost divine. He looked at Ethan with a mix of compassion and authority, and Ethan felt as though he were standing before something far greater than he could comprehend. Then the man spoke, not with words, but with a voice that seemed to echo inside Ethan's mind. He revealed that Ethan was chosen, someone destined to fulfill a greater purpose. He explained that the world was full of darkness and suffering, but that God had placed a light within Ethan, a force he had yet to recognize. This light was a gift, but also a responsibility. Ethan had been called to make a difference, to bring hope and transformation to the world. Ethan felt a mix of emotions: disbelief, fear, humility. He didn't see himself as special. In fact, he had always considered himself ordinary, with nothing extraordinary about him. But now, in the presence of this divine figure, he began to question everything he believed. Perhaps there was something more, something beyond what he could see or prove. The man continued, saying that Ethan needed to awaken to his true potential. He was the chosen one, and it was time to take control of his destiny and overcome the enemies trying to extinguish his light. These enemies were not only external, but also internal. His doubts, his skepticism, his fear of believing. To unleash his supreme power, Ethan needed to open his heart and accept God's call. When Ethan blinked, he was back in the square. Snow was falling gently, and his friends were calling to him from a distance. He looked around, searching for the man, but he had disappeared. Yet something inside Ethan had changed. He felt a new clarity, a new strength. For the first time in years, he felt that something greater was guiding his life. That night, as he drove home, Ethan reflected on everything that had happened. He didn't know exactly what the future held, but he was willing to find out. He knew the path wouldn't be easy, but he also knew he wasn't alone. He was the chosen one, and it was time to embrace his role in the divine plan. And so, the skeptic began his journey of transformation. He didn't become perfect, nor did he abandon all his doubts, but he began to see the world through new eyes. He realized that being chosen by God didn't mean being superior, but being willing to make a difference, to bring light where there was darkness. And little by little, Ethan began to unleash the supreme power within him, fulfilling the purpose for which he had been called. The story of Ethan, the skeptic who discovers he is chosen by God, is a powerful reflection of the journey of self-discovery and spiritual transformation that many face throughout life. His experience, which began on a cold Thanksgiving morning, is an example of how the divine call can arise unexpectedly, challenging beliefs and opening doors to a greater purpose. Recognizing and accepting one's identity as a chosen one is a profound process, filled with challenges but also revelations that transform how we see the world and ourselves. From the beginning, Ethan was a man bound by logic and reason. As an investigative journalist, he prided himself on his ability to uncover lies and expose inconvenient truths. To him, the world was a cold and calculated place where everything could be explained by concrete facts. God, miracles, and destiny were concepts he rejected, seeing them as human inventions to cope with the chaos of existence. However, what Ethan didn't realize was that his limited view of the world prevented him from seeing the depth and beauty of existence. He was blind to the light that shone within him, a light that connected him to something much greater. Ethan's transformation began subtly, almost imperceptibly. During Thanksgiving dinner with his childhood friends, he felt out of place, as if something was missing. Although surrounded by people who loved him, he couldn't share in the joy and gratitude that filled the room. His skeptical mind kept him trapped in a narrow view of reality, unable to recognize the signs that something extraordinary was about to happen. It was in the town's central square, decorated with Christmas lights and a large nativity scene, that Ethan had his first encounter with the unknown. The mysterious figure of a man sitting on a bench, with eyes that seemed to see into his soul, awakened something within him. Although he couldn't explain why, Ethan felt compelled to approach. This encounter marked the beginning of his spiritual journey, one that would lead him to question everything he believed and discover his true identity as one of God's chosen. Through powerful and transformative visions, Ethan was confronted with realities he had never considered. He saw the pain and suffering of a woman who had lost everything but still held onto her faith. He witnessed the serenity of a man on the brink of death, facing the end with courage and hope, believing in something beyond this life. These experiences opened Ethan's eyes to the depth of the human condition and the presence of something greater that permeated all things. He began to realize that his limited view of the world was not enough to explain the complexity and beauty of existence. It was then that Ethan received the most important revelation of his life. He was chosen. God had placed a light within him, a force that made him unique and connected him to a greater purpose. This light was not just a symbol, but a real manifestation of his divine potential. However, with this gift also came responsibilities and challenges. Ethan needed to accept his identity as a chosen one and be willing to face the enemies that would try to extinguish his light. These enemies were not only external, but also internal: his doubts, his skepticism, and his fear of believing. You bear the mark of a chosen one, and with this privilege also come trials, envy, and those enemies who silently try to diminish your light. These words resonate deeply with the experience of many chosen ones. As their light shines brighter, they inevitably attract both admiration and envy. People around them may not understand the depth of their calling and, as a result, may try to undermine their confidence and divert their focus. However, it is crucial to understand that these external resistances do not reflect their true identity, but rather the limitations and fears of those who cannot see beyond the obvious. Accepting who you are, despite attempts to destabilize you, is a fundamental step in strengthening your spiritual leadership. Being a leader does not mean being infallible, but being willing to grow continuously and learn from every experience. It is about embracing both your strengths and vulnerabilities, recognizing that every aspect of your personality contributes to the mission God has entrusted to you. This acceptance allows you to remain steadfast on your journey, even when circumstances are challenging. Your special essence places you in a unique position of spiritual leadership. It is not just about guiding others, but about being a living example of faith and perseverance. Your authenticity and integrity serve as inspiration for those seeking guidance and purpose in their own lives. By living in alignment with your divine identity, you create a positive impact that goes beyond words, touching hearts and transforming lives around you. Moreover, authenticity is a quality that truly distinguishes the chosen ones. Your genuine aura attracts people who seek truth and meaning, creating a network of conscious and fulfilled individuals. This ability to attract and inspire others is a direct manifestation of the divine power operating through you. Every interaction, every word, and every action is guided by a clear intention to reflect God's light, strengthening not only yourself, but also the community around you. Dealing with external resistance requires significant resilience and self-confidence. It is natural to feel discouraged in the face of criticism or misunderstanding, but it is precisely in these moments that inner strength must prevail. Focusing on your divine identity and the purpose destined for you provides the clarity needed to navigate life's storms with grace and determination. Confidence in your mission allows you to remain unshaken, regardless of adverse circumstances. Recognizing your identity as a chosen one also opens doors to a deeper understanding of your role in the world. You begin to realize that your abilities to discern are not just personal talents, but divine tools meant to guide and protect. This realization broadens your vision, allowing you to see beyond immediate limitations and understand the greater impact of your actions. By accepting his calling, Ethan discovered that being chosen by God was not just a privilege, but a responsibility. He understood that his inner light was a powerful tool to transform lives and bring hope to the world. His journey, though filled with challenges, became a living example of how recognizing and accepting one's divine identity can lead to a fuller and more meaningful life. In essence, recognizing your identity as a chosen one of God is a powerful affirmation of who you are and what you are destined to accomplish. It is a call to live more fully and meaningfully, embracing every facet of your personality and using it to fulfill your divine mission. As you deepen this recognition, your connection to the divine purpose strengthens, illuminating your path and empowering you to lead with wisdom and compassion. The story of David and Goliath is a powerful example that directly connects to the journey of Ethan, the chosen one who discovered his true identity and purpose. Just as Ethan faced his own internal and external challenges, David, a young shepherd, was called to face a giant who seemed invincible. Both show us that true strength does not come from human abilities, but from faith and trust in the divine purpose. David was just a young shepherd, with no military training or powerful weapons. When the army of Israel was challenged by Goliath, a giant feared by all, no one had the courage to face him. But David, moved by his faith in God, saw the situation differently. He knew his strength did not come from himself, but from the Lord. Refusing armor and weapons, he faced Goliath with a sling, 5 stones, and his trust in God. With just 1 stone, he defeated the giant, proving that true victory comes from faith, not material resources. This story teaches us that, like David, we all face our own Goliaths, challenges that seem impossible to overcome. These giants can be doubts, fears, financial problems, difficulties at work, or personal conflicts. However, David's victory reminds us that we don't need extraordinary tools to win. All we need is to trust in God and believe that He equips us to overcome any obstacle. Just like David, Ethan also had to face his giants. He discovered that being chosen by God does not mean being perfect or having all the answers, but being willing to take a step of faith, even when the path seems uncertain. His strength did not come from his logic or abilities, but from the divine light that God had placed within him. The story of David and Goliath reminds us that God chooses the unlikely to accomplish the impossible. Just like David and Ethan, you too are chosen. No matter the size of the challenge, God is by your side. Trust in Him, face your giants with courage, and unleash the power He has placed within you. With God, all things are possible. It is in this context that the Chosen devotional becomes a special resource. Over 40 days, its readings and reflections help you, who are also on this journey, to strengthen your faith and find greater clarity in your purpose. This devotional does not provide ready-made answers, but invites you to reflect on your existence, to feel the love of God that surrounds us, and to remember that we are never alone. Each page is an opportunity for renewal, a reminder that the challenges we face do not erase God's calling, but make it even more meaningful. Being chosen is not an exclusive privilege, but a call to serve, love, and inspire. When you embrace who you truly are, you become a light that guides others in moments of uncertainty. Believing in your mission is an act of faith that impacts your community, bringing hope, joy, and leaving a legacy of kindness and compassion. If this message touched your heart, share in the comments a word or reflection that represents what it means to you to be chosen. Your voice could be the inspiration someone needs to find meaning and hope in their own journey. I am George, a spiritual leader, and it is a pleasure to have you here.